Let's explore the ways meditation could help one cope with abuse. This morning's lesson is drawn from a good-hearted question found on Reddit. Can you follow Buddhist practices while in an abusive situation? The person wrote, I've been thinking about this and imagine it's a similar situation where you cannot heal while being in the place that hurt you. So you probably cannot attain enlightenment accurately or accurately follow Buddhist practices while in an abusive situation, right? So there is a lot to unpack here. Number one, if someone is abusing you physically or emotionally or verbally or sexually, you don't owe anybody an explanation to get out and to seek help. That is, no one has the right to harm you. Number two, you don't need a religious or a spiritual excuse to leave. Number three, if you are in an abusive situation, it is better to practice poorly than not at all. It's better to meditate poorly than not at all. Meditation is not about selecting an emotion. It's about using our sympathetic nervous system and our parasympathetic nervous system in a distinctly therapeutic manner. What is enlightenment? Enlightenment is not the absence of painful emotions. Enlightenment is not the presence of pleasurable emotions. So enlightenment is not never pain or fear or anger. Enlightenment is not always bliss and rapture. What if the Buddha's path was as simple as the Buddha's Eightfold Path? And what if enlightenment was simply mastering that Eightfold Path? Buddha taught it could be mastered in as little as a week. So the question here is not, do you have to become a Buddha? The question is, can you, implementing the Buddha's tools, help us to cope with difficult situations? And the answer is, yes. Yes, it can. It's hard to remain calm and at peace when you're constantly in a fight or flight mode. So what I'm about to tell you is not an indictment against you, and is not me trying to insult you. But it is an indictment against the authors you've read or the teachers you've had. Enlightenment is not about selecting a physical state or a mental state. In fact, we choose our states at our peril. See, when we choose our states, we are indulging our controlling tendencies. And the path of controlling may lead several places, but peace, fulfillment, and enlightenment are not one of them. So we can be as twitchy as Deputy Barney Fife and still practice and even master the Buddhist path. So, tell me if you've heard this before. I'm too antsy to meditate. I'm too stiff to practice yoga. I'm too out of shape to go to the gym. And the answer to all those objections is you go to the gym to get strong. You go to yoga to gain flexibility. You meditate to deal with anxiety. So meditation is not something you wait until anxiety is gone. It's something you adapt so that you can cope with anxiety. As one who has endured multiple abusive situations throughout one's life, those who are disabled are like catnip to those with cluster B personality disorders. They seek us out. So I've had, sadly, multiple experiences dealing with very clever and cunning abusers. And in the heat of fight and flight, we can experience the impulse to do some rash things. The tools of mindfulness and meditation can help us to navigate that landfill and to, in fact, a fringe benefit of a truly healing meditation practice, one that relies less on the prefrontal cortex and more upon the autonomic nervous system, will help your choices and your utterances and your deeds to flow with the effortless effort of love's centered spontaneity, so that the right words and the right timing and the right strategy will just flow through you effortlessly and surprisingly, as if you were more the audience and less the prime mover. Just interested in people's ideas of this piece, meaning the sort of indifferent acceptance often told in the "we'll see" tale with the farmer. So allow me to elucidate. Here is how the "we see" tale is told. Upon the Tibetan plateau, a farmer's wife gave birth to a son. His neighbors congratulated him on his good fortune, and the farmer said, "We'll see." The infant grew into a toddler who grew into a young man. And as a young man, he found a stray horse. His neighbors said, "What good fortune?" And the farmer said, "We'll see." In an attempt to tame the horse, the young man got injured and lamed. And the neighbors consoled him on his misfortune, to which the farmer replied, "We'll see." The local warlord, the minions of the local warlord came by seeking conscripts, and they did not take the farmer's son because the farmer's son was lame. The farmer's friends congratulated him on his good fortune, and again the farmer said, "We'll see." Now, this is not meant to illustrate that the farmer was indifferent. It's meant to say that there is freedom in not using labels. We don't always know if something is fortunate or unfortunate. We don't always know it, despite how things look and despite how things feel. So what is being suggested in that story is that a healthy fringe benefit of a good meditation practice is that we are slower and slower to practice the rigidity of labeling. The first of 7 enlightenment factors is mindfulness. There is a myth that if we're truly spiritual, we will no longer feel any qualms about any misfortune. No. The Buddha's path is one of vulnerability, where we notice things vulnerably, passively, viscerally, and randomly. Where we notice the full spectrum of sights, sounds, sensations, flavors, scents, and the like, not just the ones we find pleasant. When we notice the full spectrum of emotions, intentions, thoughts, memories, and imaginings, not just the ones we find peaceful. The Buddha's path of mindfulness is one of vulnerability, where we notice what our senses tell us, and we notice our reaction to them, whether those reactions are embarrassing or painful. We still notice them. The peace the Buddha offers us is not the peace that occurs in the absence of sensory stimuli. It's the peace that comes from transcending our habit of living in perpetual resistance to that sensory stimuli. And that brings us to another threshold. Many people are scared that if they transcend resistance, they will be a veritable doormat. And that fear is understandable. However, it has been my experience and the experience of other meditation teachers that if one has a healthy practice of noticing and releasing in harmony with our inhalation and our exhalation, that more and more our choices, utterances, and deeds will flow from the centered spontaneity of, will flow from with the effortless effort of love's centered spontaneity. Have you ever seen a kung fu movie? What comes to mind for me is Kung Fu Hustle, which was a kung fu comedy. There is a point when you see a master when you see a fool in a fight, and the fool is putting too much effort into each block and to each kick, and they're exhausting themselves. Whereas you see a master scoring off against an opponent, and they redirect a kick or evade a punch with the minimum amount of effort and motion. That's a wonderful artistic example of being in the flow state. The more we blend mindfulness and meditation with our inhalation and our exhalation in harmony with our sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous systems, the more we will be able to gently, passively, vulnerably, automatically surf the three-ring shit show of the present moment. Remember the life story of Gautama, who was called the Buddha. He was raised with power, privilege, and affluence. There isn't a single pleasure that wasn't at his fingertips. He had an epiphany that debauchery was not the path of fulfillment. He left all that behind, the power, the prestige, to become a homeless monk. And that homeless monk, he didn't have all the creature comforts you and I have. And he encountered some people, some were cruel, and some were just ignorant. But he encountered some very unpleasant entities. He didn't postpone his practice until his circumstances were just right. He did not postpone his practice until his companions were just right. He practiced despite his companions. He practiced despite his circumstances. And that helped him to transcend them, to become fully realized regardless of the fools and the misfortunes he endured. This is not an attempt to fatalize or minimize or rationalize or fatalize your predicament. If you're being abused, get out. You don't need an excuse. If for whatever reason you can't get out, or it's going to take you a while to get out, then the techniques of meditation can help you to cope so that you don't do anything rash and so that you do not sink deeper into mental illness, and to quote the English beat, and so you're able to more effectively flow with the Tao. Edit just wanted to add something else here to the question. Do you think it is possible to learn Buddhist practices in an abusive situation without a community to support you? So there's good, and there's better, and there's best. Don't let perfect be the enemy of good. There are those who would tell you you cannot There are people who are coercive, who walk the path of Devadatta, who think it's wonderful to be rigid, fearful, controlling, elitist, cryptic, and competitive and cruel. And they can't wait to coerce you, to tell you that if you have not done what they think you should have done, not only will you fail on the Buddhist path, you haven't even entered the Buddhist path. Those words are indictment on the people uttering them, not on you. The Buddhist path is remarkably simple. Allow me to illustrate. This is our prefrontal cortex. When we rely upon structures of our prefrontal cortex, such as the medial prefrontal cortex or the dorsolateral prefrontal cortex, in an effort to actively concentrate or actively analyze. Number one, our blood collects at our amygdala, increasing our anxiety and aggression. Number two, we can exhaust our prefrontal cortex and begin to present the symptoms of depression. Neither the anxiety, the aggression, or the depression I would recommend. Fortunately, there's an easy solution. Every time we inhale, whether we know it or not, we access our sympathetic nervous system ensconced within the thoracic or ribcage region of our spinal cord. This area has evolved to notice vulnerably, passively, viscerally, and randomly. It has evolved to notice sights, sounds, sensations, flavors, scents, and the like. It has evolved to notice emotions, intentions, thoughts, memories, and imaginings. Every time we exhale, whether we know it or not, we are wired to access our parasympathetic nervous system, ensconced within both the lower lumbar region of our spinal cord, as well as the tippy top of the cervical region of our spinal cord, sometimes described as our brainstem or reticular activation system. Forgive me. Either way, this parasympathetic nervous system has evolved to support both physical relaxation as well as mental release. This does not mean that all pain is gone, or all anxiety is gone, or all peril is gone. What it means is this: as we relax into our exhalation, whatever we noticed during our previous inhalation momentarily could feel less rigid or permanent or defining. Just as we do not content ourselves with one breath our entire life, but we breathe in and out, all the days of our life. Similarly, with each inhalation, with each exhalation, we are already wired, thanks to a happy coincidence of evolution, to practice the perception and release that are sometimes described as mindfulness and meditation. We are already wired to do this, but sometimes our Urkel-like brain gums things up. Fortunately, there's a solution. Every time we ask our big old brain to silently and mentally recite the demonstrative pronoun this during our inhalation, all of a sudden our brain begins cooperating with our sympathetic nervous system. And during each exhalation, when we invite our mind to silently and mentally recite the one-syllable verb ease, our big old brain begins cooperating with our parasympathetic nervous system. So with this remarkably easy tool, we can find ourselves able to cope with whatever terror or rage or despair befalls you. I'm sorry you're enduring such difficulty. I'm glad you have enough internet access to post a question on Reddit. I hope very much, if you're not able to leave today, that you at least have the opportunity to work with me directly or indirectly for free on YouTube. I'll be happy to help you with my skill set as best I can. This is Lama Jigme Gyatso of the Buddha Joy Meditation School. For more than 30 years, I've spent about 8 hours a day, almost every day, studying, practicing, mastering, and reverse engineering the teachings and techniques of each sect of Buddhism so that you would not have to. Welcome, my friends, to meditate like a Jedi, which is made possible due to the generosity of viewers just like you. So let's turn our attention to the latest iteration of Kind Gaze Easy Meditation, known in Sanskrit as Avalokiteshvara, or in Tibetan as Chenrezig. Those upon the path of being rigid, fearful, and controlling might view Kind Gaze mistakenly as an entity to be worshipped and supplicated. Au contraire, those, if you found me, are most likely on the path of being or becoming flexible and loving and laid back. And upon this path, we view Kind Gaze simply as an archetype, whose iconography reminds us that we are already wired to master, no less practice, awareness and letting go, bliss and letting go, as well as love and letting go. We're going to play with a lap of practices. We're going to start with the second fold of the Buddha's Eightfold Path, the first fold of the Buddha's Eightfold Path, and then the seventh and eighth folds of the Buddha's Path, and then circle around 2 or 3 times. Let us bring the 4 bases of mindfulness into the practice of love, bliss, and letting go. Please chant with me. And by the way, the moment you have a specific question about Buddhist chanting, Buddhist meditation, Buddhist philosophy, or their application, please type your question in great detail in the chat window. Together. Rather than indulge our controlling tendencies with the follies of active visualization, emotion, magic, and belief, we could passively recite these kind words in harmony with our breathing and allow our subconscious to do the heavy lifting. Let us sidestep the rigidity that confuses metaphors as statements literal, and relax into the flexibility that savors the chance presenting metaphors as similes. Let us begin by reminding ourselves of the meaning of the mantra. Together. Om I invoke the wish-fulfilling Manu jewel of love and the purifying Pemi lotus of letting go, supplicating with whom may love and letting go be mastered by all. And now we get down to it. So we're going to play with a wishing love that is written in figurative language. And although figurative language can seem confusing, it's poignant because all complex life forms on this planet have evolved to think symbolically. Please chant with me. May all minds of all beings know be as peacefully enlightened as the mind of a real or imagined Buddha symbolized by a tea-clay one-syllable seed or bija mantra. Don't let perfect be the enemy of good. If you cannot chant this, recite this. If you cannot recite this, whisper it. If you cannot whisper it, then silently and mentally recite it using your imagination, just reading it. Reading this is better than nothing. Please don't let perfection be the enemy of good enough. Notice we're wishing for all beings to be enlightened. And we're comparing the enlightenment. We wish that all beings enlightened be like that of a Buddha, like a Buddha's mind, which is symbolized by this image here, just a syllable. It's not our job to memorize it or write it or visualize it. Now we're going to take all these words and shrink them down to just 6 syllables. As we breathe in, we could silently, mentally, and passively recite this italicized bit. As we exhale, we can physically relax as best we can while striving to chant this mantra 4 times per breath. Now I'd like to perform this with you once per breath for a total of 4 breaths. And the big kids, well, they call that a round, assuming a round is 1 inhalation followed by 1 exhalation. And so I invite you to count these 4 rounds with me, advancing the tip of your left thumb during each inhalation and counting it upon the 3 creases and tip of your left little finger. Om mani padme hum, Om mani padme hum, Om mani padme hum, Om mani padme hum. We don't have to think of this as a prayer to a real or imagined entity. We can think of this simply as syllables that help our energy, that dance with our energy in a supportive way. Om mani padme hum, Om mani padme hum, Om mani padme hum, Om mani padme hum. Om mani padme hum, Om mani padme hum, Om mani padme hum, Om mani padme hum. Om mani padme hum, Om mani padme hum, Om mani padme hum, Om mani padme hum. If you wanted to, you could do this completely silently. And when you feel comfortable, you could even do this doing a walking meditation. But that's not mandatory. Let's chant. May all relationships or speech of all beings now be as joyfully loving as a real or imagined Buddha's communication symbolized by the 6-syllable mantra. The 6-syllable mantra is the most famous mantra in all of Tibet. Let us count our next 4 inhalations upon our left ring finger. Om mani padme hum, Om mani padme hum, Om mani padme hum, Om mani padme hum. Not only could you wish enlightenment upon yourself, not only can you wish enlightenment upon all beings, you could also wish enlightenment upon your abuser. Similarly, not only could you wish that your own heart be loving, or that all hearts of all beings be loving, you could even wish that your abuser's heart be loving. A dreadful poem was composed, The Rape of Yeshe Tsokal. A very spiritual female meditation master was brutally assaulted. She could not outrun her assailants. She could not outfight her assailants. But she could outthink and outlove her assailants. And so as this poor person was brutalized, she was able to wish them every blessing And whether or not this actually transformed her abusers is unknown, but it did help her to cope with a horrible circumstance. Sadly, I too am the survivor of sexual assaults, and to be able to think clearly in the midst of a nightmare is a wonderful thing. Let's continue. Om Mani Padme Hum. Om Mani Padme Hum. Om Mani Padme Hum. Om Mani Padme Hum. Really relaxing into the mantra. That's the most important part. Not our voice, not our tone, not the quality of the texture of our voice. It's the physical relaxation that counts. Om Mani Padme Hum. 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 Together. May all bodies or forms of all beings now enjoy the beautiful health seen in Buddhist statuary, depicting the blissful body of a real or imagined Devi or Yatama, an archetype of enlightenment such as Chenrezig. Let us count the next 4 breaths upon our left middle finger. Om Mani Padme Hum. 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 May all circumstances or lots of all beings now have the good fortune or boon, as a Buddha's real or imagined paradise, pure land or Vati. Let us count the next 4 breaths upon our left index finger. Om Mani Padme Hum. 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 Padme Hum. Om Mani Padme Hum. Om Mani Padme Hum. Om Mani Padme Hum. So, having worked with the second fold of the Eightfold Path, which is loving kindness, we turn our attention to the first fold of the Eightfold Path, which is a right view of reality. To facilitate that, let us bring the four bases of mindfulness into the figurative practice of the rainbow body. But first, upon our left hand, we've learned how to count to 16. We've learned how to count 16 breaths or 16 rounds. Upon the 12 creases and 4 tips of our 4 fingers. On our right hand, we can count sets of 16. For instance, we've just completed our first set of 16 rounds. We're now going to start our second set of 16 rounds. This could feel befuddling. That's okay. Repetition makes things more clear. Together. All visible circumstances or lots could be as impermanent and interdependent, as if they could blissfully melt into rainbow light that could delightfully absorb into this body or form. We're not being asked to believe anything, but every adult has seen change. Every adult has seen the changing of seasons, the waxing and the waning of the moon. Every adult has seen the rising and the setting of the sun and felt the swelling and the sinking of their chest. Change is nothing new. And we can use the verb melting as a metaphor of impermanence. We've also noticed interdependence. We noticed that when we pet a cat who doesn't want to be pet, they swat us. When we drink liquid that's too hot, it burns us. We see interdependence all the time. When we walk outside in the rain, we get wet. When we walk outside in the summer, we get warm. And we could use the verb absorption as a metaphor of interdependence. So let us take all these words and squeeze them down into just 6 syllables. During our inhalation, we can silently and mentally recite, see, lot, smelt. During our exhalation, we could silently and mentally recite, into form. Reciting, see, lot, smelt in harmony with our inhalation heightens our perceptual acuity. Reciting, into form during our exhalation helps us to physically relax and mentally release. Remember our opening chant. It's not our job to visualize or emote or intend or believe or work magic. We're simply playing with words vulnerably, passively, viscerally, in harmony with our breathing, in a way that acts as sort of like a warm-up for the 16 sets of silent meditation that follow. So on our right hand, beginning our second set of 16 rounds, on our left hand, let us count upon our left little finger. All sensual bodies or forms could be as impermanent and interdependent as if they could blissfully melt into rainbow light that could delightfully absorb into this communicational speech. As we play with this exercise, we could notice that although our forms are sensual, they can also feel less than graspable. All resounding interpersonal speech could be as impermanent and interdependent as if it could blissfully melt into rainbow light that could delightfully absorb into this mind. Our experience of the interpersonal is typified by communication, both verbal and nonverbal. So our speech, while being metaphorically resonant, as we relax into our exhalation, could feel less graspable. The verb melt reminds us of change, and the phrase or the preposition into reminds us of interdependence. All lucid minds could be as impermanent and interdependent as if they could blissfully melt into rainbow light that could delightfully absorb into our vast empty void. Like the illusion of the infinite outer sky on a bright and beautiful cloudless morn, which although tantalizing to the eye could be not graspable to the hand. Having trained in the second and then the first fold of the Eightfold Path, we're now ready to train in the seventh and eighth fold of the Eightfold Path, mindfulness and meditation. Therefore, let us bring whatever we spontaneously notice into the path of awareness and letting go. And let us advance our right thumb upon our right little finger until it comes to the third set of creases. And this is our first of 14 sets of 16 rounds of awareness and release. Of course, I recommend resting your palms in your lap at this point. Well, that's weird. Sorry, I should have done this. Sorry, guys. Having completed our first lap, let's start our second lap. Let us lovingly wish Bijou wise for all minds. Now, if this is your first time tuning in, let's elaborate together. May all minds of all beings know be as peacefully enlightened as the mind of a real or imagined Buddha symbolized by a Tikle one syllable seed or Bija mantra. So we're taking all these words and we're condensing them into just 6 syllables. Bija wise for all minds. This first half we recite silently and mentally during the inhalation. The second half we recite silently and mentally during the exhalation. May all relationships or speech of all beings know be as joyfully loving as a real or imagined Buddha's communication symbolized by the 6-syllable mantra. May all bodies or forms of all beings know and enjoy the beautiful Halcyon and Buddhist statuary, depicting the blissful body of a real or imagined Devi or Yadam, an archetype of enlightenment such as Chenrezig. May all circumstances or lots of all beings now have the good fortune or boon. As a Buddha's real or imagined paradise, per land or vati. Let us turn our attention now to the first fold of the Eightfold Path, a right view of reality, which we shall explore by bringing the four bases of mindfulness into the figurative path of the rainbow body. All visible circumstances or lots could be as impermanent and interdependent, as if they could blissfully melt into rainbow light that could delightfully absorb into this body or form. All sensual bodies or forms could be as impermanent and interdependent, as if they could blissfully melt into rainbow light that could delightfully absorb into this communicational speech. All resounding interpersonal speech could be as impermanent and interdependent, as if it could blissfully melt into rainbow light that could delightfully absorb into this mind. All lucid minds could be as impermanent and interdependent, as if they could blissfully melt into rainbow light that could delightfully absorb into our vast empty void. Like the illusion of the infinite azure sky on a bright and beautiful cloudless morn, which, although tantalizing to the eye, could be not graspable to the hand. For the next several sets of 16 rounds, let us bring whatever we notice, spontaneously notice, into the path of awareness and letting go. During our inhalation, we can silently and mentally recite the demonstrative pronoun this as we watch the antics of mind, as it perceives, intends, emotes, reasons, recalls, and imagines. During each exhalation, we can silently and mentally recite the one-syllable verb ease as we physically relax into mind's non-graspable nature. Let us turn our attention to bodhicitta refuge and bowing. In our compassion, may we long to free all beings from the toxic tyranny of hating, craving, and clinging, metaphorically known as the three mental poisons. In our pragmatism, may our liberation of all others be fueled by our reliance on the Buddha's example, instructions, and students, described by the metaphor of the three wish-fulfilling jewels. If you wish, you may join me in doing a few geriatric step-back squat thrusts. For having sat for 75 minutes, this could be refreshing. Let's see here. We free all through thee three jewels. May 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 we free all through thee three jewels. Okay. Let us seal this practice by chanting love and letting go's wishes for universal enlightenment and well-being. May all minds of all beings lucid yet void no be as enlightened as a Buddha's mind symbolized by a one-syllable bija. May all speech of all beings resounding yet void no be as loving as a Buddha's speech is symbolized by a multi-syllable mantra. May all forms of all beings sensual yet void no be as healthy as a Yada marked heart depicted in Buddhist statuary. May all lots of all beings appearing yet void no be as fortunate as a pure land of law represented in Buddhist paintings. If you feel that I have earned it, you could give this live stream a thumbs up. You could even help support this channel. In approximately 9.5 hours, I would very much like to return to lead today's evening meditation class and group practice. And if you are as geeky as me, may the Force be with you.